he who dominates the electromagnetic spectrum is going to have the advantage in this war. Hamish De Bretton-Gordon, former British Army officer and military analyst, and author of Tank Command.
Ukraine just unveiled the Serena drone. What is it and why is it important?
I think the first thing to say before we actually look at the drone itself is that Ukraine, that didn't have a navy as such when the war started, over 4.5 years ago, has, by use of maritime drones, been able to pretty much nullify the Great Black Sea Fleet. And Ukraine now has freedom of manoeuvre pretty much in the Black Sea, which then allows it to use more and more maritime drones. Up till now, the maritime drones that Ukraine's had are basically, unmanned boats full of explosives, which they have pointed at ships or submarines and blown them up. Now, the Serena seems to be the next level of sophistication, a sort of intelligent unmanned maritime drone, if you like. It seems to have the speed. I mean, it's listed as 56 miles an hour, but for a boat or a ship, that is quick. I mean, that is the quickest speedboat that you'll see, out on the beaches this weekend, sort of thing. So moving very quickly, so difficult to intercept with conventional type weapons. Some of the capabilities that we understand that this drone has, we've been talking a lot about electronic warfare, and it seems to have been designed so that it can work in this sort of electronic infested battle space where the enemy is trying to jam you at every opportunity. And the ability to counter that is hugely significant. I think then when you look at some of the other capabilities it has, we understand it has a Sidewinder type missile, which is the Sidewinder is usually air-to-air missile, but again, the Ukrainians have adapted it so it can be fired from this maritime drone, incredibly effective to take down, Russian jets, and also presumably they're looking to take down some of the bigger drones as well. You add to the fact its endurance, 24 hours. We're looking at over 500 miles. This thing can do an awful lot of things in a relatively short space of time, but still with significant endurance. And no doubt it would not, it's probably operating with other drones and other capabilities as well, and the ability for itself to navigate and the use of AI so that it can prosecute its operations. It seems to be really significant, and way ahead of anything else that we're sort of seeing. Whether it, coming out of NATO countries, US or whatever. And if the Ukrainians say it's the right thing to have on the current battlefield, then I think we're probably we should listen very carefully to that.
The Serena has a massive multi-band jamming suite operating at 6,000 megahertz. What does that mean in a combat scenario?
Well, I'm not an electronic warfare expert, but certainly when you read the blurb and you look at the extent of its capability, that gives one the impression that it can certainly counter any of the known Russian electronic jamming capabilities because of the breadth that it has and the power. One assuming that this relatively small vessel has an awful lot of power in it as well to be able to do this, because they're looking, some of the figures I've seen is that they can suppress electronic warfare out to about 18 kilometers, which is, a huge capability. You're creating a sort of 18 kilometer zone where you can operate without fear of being interdicted by Russian jamming. So it, again, without the full technical detail, it seems that it has the power and capability to not just act in the local area to protect itself, but also to project this electronic warfare jamming and capability to allow others to operate in a sort of 18-kilometre environment. And you can imagine if it is operating with other similar capabilities, that can be further extended. But that is a long way to be able to operate without fear of jamming and being subject to Russian electronic warfare.
Ukraine's defense minister, Mikhailo Fedorov, recently said he wants to turn Crimea into an island and a living hell. Looking at the geography and these new maritime capabilities, do you agree that Russia is losing its grip on the peninsula?
Very, very much so. I mean, Crimea is becoming it's not quite vital ground. The description of vital ground is you must hold that ground, otherwise your mission is untenable. But for a whole host of reasons, not just physical, but also moral, Crimea is a key element. On the one hand, it is one of the very few holiday resort places that Russians can go to these days because they're banned from, virtually everywhere else. So it's always been seen as that. And, at the beginning of the war and before the war, lots of Russians were buying expensive properties there and going there for their holidays. But Crimea is in a difficult position. There are two ways onto it, basically, across the Kerch bridge, and then down through the north, through the Donbass, past Mariupol, and that sort of area. Now, the northern approach has been severely restricted by Ukrainian drone attacks and missile attacks. And we understand a lot of the logistics for the army in the Donbass has now had to come through the Crimea. But we've seen a lot of attacks on the Crimea. We understand that fuel is no longer available. Civilians can't buy fuel in Crimea. So why on earth would you go on holiday there? And the little fuel that there is going to municipal organisations and to the military. There is a lot of chatter this week about the Kerch Bridge, which is this trophy, or Putin's trophy bridge, going from the Russian side into Crimea, that was attacked some years ago. But the mood music recently, there have been reports of potentially ships carrying a lot of Russian ammunition being blown up in the vicinity of the Kerch Bridge. And I think only in the last 24 hours, various members of the Ukraine government are sort of suggesting that that Russians should avoid the Kerch Bridge and avoid Crimea. So when you look at it, it's a real focus. Now, it might be part of a deception plan. Who knows? We know that the Russians are making a little bit of ground to the sort of northeast of the Donbass, and no doubt Ukraine will be trying to interdict them there. But Crimea is a key place psychologically as well as physically, and the ability for Ukraine to attack it because it's subdued the Black Sea Russian fleet, and because of its use of mass drones, and now it's got the Serena drone as well. One feels that actually Crimea is, could well be the next place that Russia has real problems with.
We've seen that there's a large grey zone appearing in Konstantinivka where Russian soldiers have infiltrated the city. But we're seeing another remarkable piece of innovation from Ukraine with this Serena drone. Do you think there is a focus on Crimea? Do you think Ukraine is going all in on Crimea?
I'm not sure it is. I mean, I think that is certainly the message that they want to get across. Because they're attacking Crimea, but they're also attacking Moscow and deep as well. I should think that they want to, the focus of some of the Russian infiltration recently is a concern. I know it's an important city, and people are concerned because Sumy and some of the other cities are fairly close by. But Russia is putting so much effort into it that one sort of gets the feeling that it's putting all its eggs in this particular basket, whereas Ukraine has been much more widespread and diverse, and actually, cutting off the supply lines to these very troops is probably the most effective way of stopping their incursion than actually trying to front up to them directly. So, I think an awful lot is going on at the moment. We are getting what the Ukrainian government, President Zelensky and the Ukrainian Secret Service want us to hear. And one would expect, the way the pace of this war is going at the moment, new things have been revealed by the day, and it might well be that there is some sort of more significant event in Crimea. But it seems that Ukraine is trying to break Crimea by 1,000 cuts, as they say, and that seems to be pretty effective at the moment. So I'm not sure they'll change hugely their modus operandi there, but one expects they're doing a lot of things all over the place at the moment. And the reason they can do it is because, as we discussed before, their use of balloons for deep strikes, their use of electronic warfare, and their absolute command of the autonomous systems, be they in the air, the land, or the sea.
On the autonomous systems, so this, as you mentioned earlier, this sea drone can operate up to 500 miles from its command post for 24 hours. Does this fundamentally undermine Russia's strength that has served it for centuries, i.e. massive reserves of manpower?
Well, I don't think it fundamentally changes it, but it is certainly a very key element to this. And the fact that you've now got an autonomous drone that can do the job of, what traditionally we would expect a warship to do, is hugely significant. Russia is still relying on its capital ships, although not in the Black Sea. And we've seen the remainder of the Black Sea fleet actually appearing in the English Channel and elsewhere. Again, from a maritime perspective, these big ships do seem to be sort of yesterday's game, as it were. And Russia is still relying on massive everything, but that we are seeing in Ukraine that is not how you're successful in this new type of warfare on the sort of contemporary battlefield. But because Russia can't innovate as quickly as Ukraine, it's really stuck in a ever-ending cycle of doing what it can. And what Russia does have is still massive manpower that they're prepared to throw into the front line to make small incremental moves and successes, whereas Ukraine is using innovation and technology to do the same. And the fact that Ukraine seems to be having such an impact deep into Russia, deep behind the lines, again, if we look at history, ultimately that is the way to win wars, not by throwing ever increasing amounts of human flesh into what we've now calling the meat grinder of the Donbass.
One final question. As a former British Army commander, what is the number one lesson from the UK Ministry of Defence? What is the number one lesson the UK Ministry of Defence needs to take away from Ukraine's hyper-fast drone evolution?
Well, I think everybody would say drones autonomous, and that's absolutely right. But I hope the key lesson the MOD takes from it is enabling innovation, enabling people who might not be part of the great defence network, the Porton Downs, the big defence industries, from solely running capability. We need to enable innovation, exactly like Ukraine's done. If there is some kid working in a back street and has a good idea, then they should be enabled to do it. I'm always amazed, that actually some of the regiments that I still have links with are having to buy their own drones to practice with and develop techniques. I mean, that is bonkers. That would not happen in Ukraine. So yeah, it's all about drones and autonomy and electronic warfare, but it's about innovation. And some of the projects that we know, like the Challenger 3 tank and the Ajax tank, that have taken 10 or 15 years to come to fruition, I'm pretty sure if the Ukrainians were running this, it would be taking weeks, if not months. So that is the lesson that I think the MOD must learn and really throw off the shackles and allow innovation to have its full reign, so that we can get the capabilities when we need them, not when they're out of date.